Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Asmi and I'm from English Education O2 2019. So in this video, I'm going to explain my research proposal for my research proposal examinations. So the title of my research is the implementations of English online learning strategy at junior high school in rural area during COVID-19 pandemic. As for my examiner, the first one is Professor Dr. Baso Jabu M.Hom, and the second examiner is Sersan Peter SPD MED TESOL AD, and my supervisor is Sir Munir SPD MED TESOL, and the second supervisor is Dr. Randa Sharifah Paradiba MED. Let's take a look at the contents of my presentations. The first one is introductions, the second one is literal view, the third one is research method, and the last one is interview questions. Let's moving on to the first part, which is chapter 1, and we have the background. So coronavirus has threatened the world's all century systems such as lifestyle, health, industrial, business, and education system. The virus effect is so extensive, it has led to the lockdown to the most countries in the world. Consequently, it affects the education system globally. UNICEF, or United Nations of Children Fund, stated that more than 1 billion children are at risk of falling behind due to school closure aimed at containing the spread of the COVID-19. So many countries have been implementing remote education programs with the purpose to keep children learning, in spite of the fact that many children, particularly those in rural household and the rural area, do not have access to the internet, smartphones, personal computers, TVs, or even radio at home. So online classes seem to be the suitable choice for continuous educations to coping with the new normal system. It has emerged as the new and convenient tools to strengthen the educational system due to the prolonged close down of the schools. And online learning qualify as a flexible learning system that evolved as a great alternative to face the education disruptions. So students and teachers in rural area have difficulties and obstacles to apply online learning, especially during COVID-19 pandemic. And the main problem is that they are more familiar to the traditional way of learning, and they're still adapting to online learning as internet is quite challenging to access and operate. So it is challenging for them to apply this online learning. Moreover, Zhang and Chu in 2010 suggested that distance learning, such as online learning of English only, turn out to be more complicated than the traditional one. So to sum up everything that has been stated so far, online learning has advantages and disadvantages. The advantages such as flexibility, and the disadvantages, especially those in rural area, is they cannot access the internet. So to the students and teachers in rural area, it's really difficult to adapting this new normal of educational system during pandemic. So based on this problem above, this study will provide deep insight into the implementations of English online class in rural area, and this will be beneficial to schools so they can improve their strategies approaches in online learning. Let's moving on to the next part, which is the research questions. There are two research questions, and the first one is how do teachers implement English online learning strategy? How do teachers implement English online learning strategy in rural area? And the second question is what is the impact of online learning on the students' learning outcomes or performance? And the second part, the third part, is the objective. So in this study, the objectives or the goal is to assess or acknowledge the implementations of English online learning or learning strategy of the teachers in rural area, from the preparations, implementations, and evaluations. Moreover, the impacts on students' learning performance or outcomes. As the fourth part is the significance. The results from the study are classified into two significance. The first one is theoretical significance, and the second one is practical significance. So theoretically, the study is expected to serve as a reference for future and further research in implementing English online learning in the rural area. So the researcher hopes that this study can open the minds of the future researchers in completing this kind of field research. Hence, the other researcher will get better research results. As for the practical significance, so by understanding the result of this study, it can help both teachers and students in developing and implementing the best approach in English online learning, especially those in rural area. And then from this result of this study, it is expected that students can reflect their achievement for better result and improve their learning skill and interest. And the last part in the background, in the introductions is scope of the research. So this study focuses on the implementations of English online learning at junior high schools in rural area, especially during COVID-19 and students. Let's moving on to the second part, which is chapter 2, literature review. And the first part in the literature review is pertinence idea, the second one is previous related findings, and the third one is conceptual framework. Let's take a look at the first one. The first one is the pertinent ideas, which is the implementations and impact. So high quality implementations of approaches in education can have a pronounced impact on improving student outcomes. The particular reason is to explore whether it is effective for a particular implementation concept or strategies in school settings to support the teacher's teaching and how it can improve student outcomes. Furthermore, Driver and Bell in Capel ATL 2001 described the theory of constructivism. So, theory of constructivism is one of the theory that supported the implementations of online learning. So, Capel ATL described the theory of constructivism as a way of learning that focuses on learners' individual conceptions and offers them responsibility to direct their own learning experience. So this theory believes that people have their own uh, pace and sense of learning things in a unique way. So learner will find new information to be problematic. So they need to examine it in relation to prior conceptions and experience and see where it fits with their existing ideas. So constructivism emphasizes on instructions where teachers need to create situations to facilitate learners constructing their own knowledge. So teachers need to pay close attention to avoid learners' misconceptions. Furthermore, Couple and ATL in 2001 offer 5 keys of implementing or constructing a lesson, which is we can see the structure on the right side of the screen. So the first one is beginning. The first one is preparations, and the second one is beginning. The third one is moving on, and fourth one is ending, and the last one is evaluations. In preparations, teachers need to thoroughly plan and structure lessons to help them to a successful lesson. So preparing a lesson beforehand will help teachers manage a class more effectively and carefully consider how to organize their students and class. So teachers need to ensure that they have enough necessary materials, media, and resources. And they need to plan a variety of appropriate teaching and learning activities, plan extra activities in case the assignment are completed quickly than anticipated. In the beginning, it's also the second part is beginning, which is also a crucial part of successful lesson. So in the beginning, teachers need to set the tone, motivate the learners, and establish the authority. So to ensure that the class begins on time and all the equipment is ready. So class need to be settled as quickly as possible to avoid wasting too much time. And we have moving on. Moving on here means that transitioning between one part of the lesson to the next part of the lesson. So this is also one of the vital key to successful lessons. So after explaining the plan and the purposes in the previous step, teachers need to tell the student exactly how long they are to spend on the activity. So as a result, they will have an idea of the phase that they need to work at and what quality of work that they require. And then we have the ending. So completing a task or any learning experience is important to give students a sense of completion. Similarly, students need a break or mental space between lessons, so they need to regain their composure from one lesson in order to prepare themselves for the next. And the last one is the evaluation. So after the lessons, teacher need to evaluate it is a success as soon as possible. Evaluate what went well and what did not went well. So what should change for the next lesson, etc. So answering these questions will help teachers to explain the following terms such as aims, objectives, progressions, and differentiations. And also we have the impact on students learning. So the impact on student learning can be positive, negative, or neutral. Lame in 2020 suggested that the impact of students' learning and outcomes depends on how well the teachers adapt effectively to the new environment. The next pertinent ideas is e-learning, and we have the definitions of e-learning. So online learning or e-learning is a way to learn using electric technology. So it is conducted on the internet. So based on Clark and Meyer, e-learning is delivering instruction using digital devices to support the learning process. And Arkanful and Abadio also suggested an idea or definitions. They state that e-learning is a way to access online learning and teaching, uh, to access learning and online to access learning and teaching resources using information and communication technology or ICT. There are also types of uh, online learning activities. So there is a lot of activities in online learning. There are many varieties of activities, including posting announcement, initiating discussions, reading, or responding to learner for teachers, or responding to teacher for the learners. Also, we have the benefits of e-learning. So there are a lot of benefits in e-learning. The first one is clearly and attractively presented. So the material is inviting and openly displayed. There are no barriers to understand. A variety of different modes such as audio, text, video, images for presentation and activities capture the interest and imaginations of the learners. The second one is active hands-on. It means that the material requires the learner not only reading but also listening, watching. Uh, Also, they are actually doing something, not just listening, watching, and reading. Uh, we have reflective. So the material encourages self-observations. There is time and opportunity to reflect built into the course. So self-assessment keep learners turned into where they are in the learning process. Also, e-learning is really beneficial because it is collaborative. Collaborative is means that learning is seen as a social experiment. Students can collaborate with other students or the teachers in learning process. This will help students sharing their perspective or point of views while learning and make them think critically. So this also means students and teachers can create a community. The first part, we have the difference between teaching and learning offline versus online. The first one is absence of the physical teachings or space. As we know that e-learning is delivered through internet, so there will be no physical contact. There is no face-to-face. All of this learning process through the internet. So through the screen, uh, from our smartphone or personal computer, or from a radio. And the second one is planning. The second difference is planning and creating online class content. So ideally, planning and creating online class content happens before the class begins. So this will help the teachers to walk them through the process of this e-learning. And then we have communicating online rather than in person. Similar to the first point, so the lack of physical contact, since all this learning process uh, is delivered through internet. And then we have delay feedback, so teacher will not be able to clarify points as needed in class or in online class. So it's essential to use writing style that is clear and straightforward. It only happens when the online learning happens through text messages, or uh, teachers deliver the materials in online platforms, so they cannot give the learners feedback as soon as possible. And then we have visual design. So online learning means using different kinds of media such as images, slide presentations, stress testing, or providing example in audio or video. So to support this clarity and understanding, teacher will provide simple, organized, and clean page design. And then we have the flexibility. So in the first part, I have said that e-learning is flexible. It means that the structure, teachers lose a certain amount of structure. So as a result, deadline become a key role in providing structure. So teacher have flexibility to deliver the materials. And then we have time online. So teacher and learners will need to adjust on how they will spend their time, or how will they use their time in online class. A lesson plan will come in handy for the teacher to adjust the materials and how much time they need to cover a certain part of the materials, activities, and assignments. And we have class participant versus attending class. So in face-to-face class, uh, teacher usually check the attending class, the attending check for the students. But however, in online learning, it is the learner attendance will be replaced by the quality and the quantity of their online participation. So in online learning, learner will be uh, learner attendance will be replaced by the quantity and quality of their participation in class. And the last one is office hours. Office hours means that teacher will not have an office hours like in offline class. It means they will be able to provide extra help to student and answer the questions outside the time in the lesson. And then we have learning strategy. So learning strategy are approaches or technique to help teachers and students to achieve their learning outcomes. At least in 1997, note that the level of second language proficiency and the success of learners are influenced by their choices of strategy. So Oxford in early 1997 presented a taxonomy of different types of learning strategies. We can see the taxonomy in the right side of the screen. So the strategies are direct strategies and indirect strategies. And then it was subdivided into 6 groups on each strategy. Let's take a look at the first one, the direct strategies. So direct strategies define strategies that involve learners to the target language directly. So learner involved in the language directly, the way they learn. And direct learning strategy is divided into three groups. They are memory strategies, cognitive, and uh, compensation strategies. The first one is memory strategies. So memory strategies depends on the use of learners' brain power. So they use their brain to recall and retrieve information of knowledge they get in the learning process to help them understand these new materials. Also, memory strategy has another secondary strategies, which is creating mental linkages, applying images and sound, employing actions, and using memory strategies for retrieval. The second strategies and direct strategies is cognitive. So cognitive strategies are assigned to help learners to manage their own phase of learning. So the secondary strategies of cognitive are practicing, receiving and sending message, analyzing and reasoning, and creating structure for input and output. And the last one is compensation strategies. These strategies will benefit learners to overcome their knowledge limitations, such as fail to hear some information clearly, confused or do not know a certain knowledge. And the secondary strategies for compensations are guessing intelligently in listening and reading, overcoming limitations in speaking and writing. Let's moving on to the indirect strategies. The first one is metacognitive strategies. But before that, let me explain what is indirect strategies. So indirect strategies are the opposite of direct strategies. So these strategies defined as learning strategies without involving the target of the language directly. So it supports learners by focusing, seeking opportunities, planning, evaluating, and increase the empathy. Let's take a look at the first one, which is metacognitive. So this strategy will help learner increase their four skills of language, which is speaking, listening, writing, and reading. So the second one is effective strategies, which is can be applied to various language skills. And the secondary strategies for this one is lowering your anxiety, encouraging yourself, and taking your emotional temperature. The last one is social strategies, which is generally useful for listening and speaking skill, but they also essential to all four of language skills. And the secondary strategies for this one is asking questions, cooperating with others, and empathizing with others. Let's moving on to the last pertinent ideas, which is English learning. But before that, I'm going to this. I'm going to explain a little bit about Philip and Fred statement that collaborative learning in the heart as the heart and soul of online learning. So collaborative, according to Philip and Pratt, also one of the most essential strategies or the most useful strategies in online learning. And there are, because in collaborative learning, there are a lot of activities that can help teacher and learners to build a constructivism theory, like I said before in the previous chapter. And those activities including small group assignment, research assignment, which is asking students to seek out and present additional resources material to their peers. And then we have group work on the case studies, simulations, share facilitations, homework forum, and asynchronous discussions of the reading and discussion questions. And the last activities is paper posted to the course site with mutual feedback provided. Okay, the last one pertinence idea is English learning. So basically, English learning focuses on four skills. There are four skills that are major skills that students need to develop in English class, which is listening skill, speaking skill, reading skill, and then writing skill. Let's take a look at the second part in chapter 2, which is the previous related findings. I have four four service related findings, and the first one is from Quadi ATL in 2019. So Quadi ATL found the needs of educators to acquire instructional strategies to meet the needs in learning, to provide a social support network for the students and their families in rural community. And the second one is Ramich and Sultana. So they found that pandemic has threatened the educational system globally, like I said before. So finding alternative classes to continue the education is a major issue that need to be done immediately during this new normal system. So they stated that learning can be established by taking advantages of the internet as the alternative learning, as most of the students using their smartphones for attending online classes, but somehow it is difficult for them to concentrate in the study properly. Furthermore, the significant problem is those in rural area when which is they have a poor internet connection. So students mostly using their mobile phone data to join the class, even though they only receive the little amount of internet speed. Similar to the chapter one, I have said that the most problem that student in rural area have is the poor connections of internet, or they do not have smartphones. And then we have Hafiz in 2020. So Hafiz on his research found two main problems in English online learning, similar to the previous finding by Ramich and Sultana. They are internet connection problem and internet quotas. So Hafiz stated that uh, poor internet connection prevents students from learning and prevents them to join the online class and collecting their assignment. Some students also facing a difficulty to buy internet quota because they're from the poorer side. Okay, uh, the last related findings is from Halima, Matsum, and Junaidi. So they investigated that to reach the goals of a learning approach, the preparation to implement them should be done at the beginning of the semester. However, COVID-19 happened in the middle of the semester, so educators or teachers had to adapt to this new challenge and approach to continue their learning process. Teachers need to be able to find a suitable website or application to deliver their materials assignment and how they collect this assignment from the students. They also suggested that the principal should be able to fulfill various facilities and infrastructure that can support the learning process for both teachers and learners. Let's move on to the last part of chapter 2, which is conceptual framework. So conceptual framework is a map to the researcher that covers the activity and the process of the study. So McGee et al. Note that the conceptual framework presents the research question as it sets the stage that drives the study being reported according to the problem statement. Let's take a look at the structure in this frame. So to implement this English online learning strategies, the first step is to have these online class strategies, and then we implement it. And in these implementations, we have the preparations, implementations, and the evaluations. Let's moving on to the third part of this research, which is research method. The research method covers 5 points. The first one is research design. Second one is research variable. Third one, data resources, and then procedure of data collection and instrument of the research. And the last one is technique of data analysis. Let's take a look at the first one. The first one is research design. So the research in this study will use qualitative research. So qualitative research is described as a method that focuses on obtaining data through open-ended and conversational communications. It is generally used to assess the significance of the core concept and to analyze an issue and gain an understanding of the problem stated of small individuals. So according to Lodico HCL in 2010, qualitative research is a study that focuses on social phenomena and on giving voices to the feelings and the participant perception of the study. And then the second part is research variable. There are 2 variables in this study, which is dependent and independent variable. So the independent variable is the implementations of English online learning strategy in rural area and like from the preparation implementations. So how the strategies and how these teachers use or deliver the lesson. As for the dependent variable is the impact of English online learning strategies or implementations in junior high school, especially in the rural area. Let's take the third part, which is data sources. So this study will investigate English teachers in rural area at several junior high school in Kecamatan Camba, Kabupaten Maros, Sulawesi Selatan. Those schools are UPTD SMPN 34 Jakarta Juara, SMP ITEAH Bengkulu, UPTD SMPN N37 Bentenge. So these schools are located in hills and mountain area where the internet services are unsteady and unreliable. So based on the research there are about 2 or 3 English teacher on each school. So the researcher will investigate these teachers by interviewing them. Let's take a look at the technique of data, the procedure of data collection and instrument of the research. To begin with, the study should be informed about the study, so the respondent, before obtaining the interview or answer the questions, the researcher will begin by telling the respondent or inform them about the basic facts about the studies, and then the interview can be conducted at times and location which suitable for the respondents. So one-on-one interview will be applied in the studies. So the researcher will interview the respondent with in-depth questions. So it's possible for the researchers to give a follow-up questions based on how the interview goes or the answer from the participants. One-on-one interview offer the researcher an insight into an array of experience of the participants. And the type of the interview in this study is semi-structured interview. So this type of interview will help researcher to ask a fairly consistent set of questions with the same order for each participant. And it allows the researcher to ask probing questions when necessary for clarification and follow participants' train of thought. This is according to Bernard, 2005. Semi-structured interview can ensure a researcher in collecting data consistently. So constructing an interview guide will help the researcher to conduct this interview. And the last one is technique of data analysis. So the researcher will use the interactive model of data analysis based on Miles, Government, and Saldana in 2014. They stated that there are three concurrent flows of activity in qualitative data analysis, which is data condensation, data display, and conclusion drawing and verifications. So data condensations assign the process of selecting, focusing, simplifying, abstracting, and or transforming the data that comes from the written up field notes, interview transcript, documents, and other empirical materials. Miles, Huberman, and Saldana also stated that data condensation is a part of analysis. They note that data condensation as a form of analysis that sharpens focus focuses on organized data in a way to help researchers draw and verify the final conclusions. As for the data display, Miles, Silverman, and Saldana analyzed that data can be coded descriptively or interpretively. They stated that data display is a critical and often underutilized means of analysis. They also suggest the researcher to create an initial of codes and defining this in the field. So, and then we have conclusions, drawing, and verifications. So at the start of the data collections, the qualitative data analysis unconsciously drawing conclusions, vague at first, then increasingly explicit and grounded. They interpret what things mean by noting patterns, explanations, causal flows, and preparations. We can see the components of data analysis on the screen on the right side. We have data collection, data display, conclusion, drawing, implications, and then back to data condensations. Let's moving on to the last part, which is interview questions. So I have 10 questions. Start from, do you have a computer or personal computer, laptop, or smartphone? And then moving on to the next questions, is there internet connections at your house? If not, where do you get to access the internet or your online class? And then how was the connections? Is it stable or not? The fourth question is, how do you prepare your class, like from the preparations, lesson plan, and etc. And then we have the fifth question, which is, how do you deliver your lesson? What application or website do you use? And the sixth question is, how do you continue your lesson if the connection is unstable or gone? And then we have what are your strategies to overcome the problems that I said before? The eighth question is, uh, how do you assess, or evaluate the students? And then the ninth question is, how does online learning affect student performance? And the last question is, what is the difference between student performance in online and offline class? Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Thanks for listening with great patience. If there is I would like to apologize if there is any mistakes or unclear explanations. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.